special episode of ISMA. So we are calling it Corona Special because now everyone is working from home and then they have nothing to do. So why not utilize this time and learn something new from these two exciting people who are with us? So we have with us Jaideep Parekh, who is known as Facebook Baba or Baba in general in India. So Jaideep, I mean, can you just a brief intro about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jaideep Parekh. So I run a digital agency called Teach Solve Pro. So we are end-to-end digital service providers. So we help our clients for online communication and branding. So that's what we do. Here we are going to discuss about Corona as well as schemas.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jaideep. It's a pleasure having you. So, Jaideep, now that we're talking about Corona and people are really worried about it, they are working from home or they're not maybe working, they're just, relaxing at home. So, and I think this is a great opportunity to learn from webinars, from online conferences, and maybe reading stuff and maybe doing stuff for which you don't get time while working because of your tight schedules. So, what is your suggestion for all these amazing people? How can they utilize this time? How can they make the most of it?
So I'll suggest them to. I mean, is still countries like India, they're very less working from home, but many part of the world they started giving work from home. Big
Right.
corporates from India they start giving work from home. So I'll suggest them
Mhm.
to utilize their time, especially. I mean, if you're lacking on some part, for example, if you're lacking for project management skills, if you're lacking on
Yeah.
some new aspect of SEO, for example, technical SEO, likewise or JavaScript SEO if you are into SEO
Yeah.
field or some or other
Mhm.
things skill you want to develop. So start reading that blog, start watching YouTube videos which are already available there. Be part of webinars. There are lot many conferences are getting cancelled, and few
Mhm.
conferences they are
Yeah.
trying to do online. So try to part
Yeah.
of that kind of conferences and learn the
Mhm.
new skills. Make a list of skills you want to learn and start ticking. I done this, I done that kind of stuff. So that will help them to use the time rightfully, and plus spend some time with your family as well. Utilize
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely. Great advice. Well, I was also supposed to speak at SMX Munich. I was really excited about it. I prepared super awesome slides this weekend, but on Monday I
Uh,
got an email that it's canceled now. So I'm like a bit heartbroken, but then I got 3 more days in life so I can focus on many other things. So yeah,
right.
thank you so much for that advice. And then we have Oyster Man with us, Arnold from Amsterdam. So Arnold.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. Well, oyster man, no, I'm just a Dutchman who likes to eat oysters, um, and likes traveling and likes helping people. Um, yeah, so Arnold Hellemans, I'm freelancing for a bunch of companies, in particular the NatWest Group, or previously known as the RBS Group Bank. Um, and loads of other companies in SaaS, as well as marketplace, as well as e-commerce. So loads of things on, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited to share some of my findings and some of my tips on Schema. And
Lovely.
I'm
Awesome.
slightly
Great to
scared
have you.
about the whole Corona stuff. Slightly.
Yeah, I'm scared as well. Well, okay, so I'm a bit confused about your personality and then mapping it to SEO because you never speak about SEO, you never share anything about SEO, but you're always sharing your pictures on different beaches and then eating oysters at many places. What's the story behind?
I I think I do share a lot of my SEO things and findings, but I do it on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll have the mayonnaise logo with my that's my name at Hellemans. But I wanted to do a little experiment as to when you show people the same pictures in different platforms. So, say Facebook, which is quite visual, Instagram, which is like enormously visual. If you can use real photos you take, but do exactly the same photos over and over again, will that influence people's ideas of you as a person? And I guess that has worked. I mean, you've called me the Oyster Man, so that
Wow.
worked.
Yeah. Well,
So
that sounds great.
it's just an
That's a
experiment,
yeah.
and I like it. I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's working, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you so much. Then once
Yeah.
again, it's a pleasure to have you. And by the way, what's your take on this Corona situation, and how's the situation there in Netherlands? And then what would you advise people to do? How to utilize this time? What's your
Well,
take on that?
utilizing the time, I think it's a great way to start spending more time with your family, with your kids, with your partner, um, as well as the availability to actually spend that time that you're normally traveling to work or are in work meetings, um, to uh, to use that to dig into data, to start understanding what happens on your websites, because in a lot of cases we're just running from A to B without actually standing back and doing some searches myself, seeing some new features in SERP that you wouldn't otherwise have spotted. And look in Search Console, look in other tools like Google Analytics, um, and just to get, well, give yourself some time to dig into data. Apart from, but it's already said, learning. You can read up on a lot of blogs, listen to a lot of podcasts, watch awesome webinars. Like all of these kind of things are, I guess, great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Cool.
My
Then once
pleasure.
again, thank you so much, both of you. I'm really excited to have you here in this webinar talking about some super cool tips about a very interesting topic, which is schema markup. Well, before we
Yep.
go there, I would like to thank all the people who subscribed and registered for this webinar. Thank you so much for amazing response once again. And stay safe. It's not like the ideal time for the whole world. Stay safe, stay at home, learn a lot of things, and take care of yourself and your families. And now, without any further delay, I think we should jump to the real topic because you are waiting for some quick tips from Jaydeep and Arnaud about schema markup. So we already spoke about Corona, which was another thing that I wanted to cover here. And now let's talk about schema markup. So yeah, Jaydeep, I think it's the stage is all yours now. You can start with some great tips on how to implement schema markup to win organic. So go for it.
Thank you, Nitin. So before jumping to what is schema and how to implement, let's discuss what exactly schema is all about. Let me share my screen. Give me a second. Here we go. So SEO is all about we say ranking, but many times I say SEO is all about ROI and lead generation, or if you're e-commerce, it's all about sale, how you can get higher ranking and higher sale for your client or your site. So schema plays very vital role in that. So this is about me. I'm Jaydeep. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Jaydeep Parikh. So we can connect over there. And this is what I'm doing. I own an agency called Solver Digital Private Limited. I'm mentor to various incubation. I'm active contributor on various sites, including SEMrush, and I'm speaker and trainer. So here we talk schemas. Why schemas are as a topic? Because Google is no longer blue links. So I'm not sure many of participants when they started, but they started almost more than a decade back. At the time, Google ranking was all about blue links. So there are 10 links on when you're searching anything. There are 10 links available, and people are clicking on that. But now Google is very much visual. So you see YouTube snippets. You are seeing image snippets, or there you are seeing star ratings on SCRP page. So they're very much visual. And why Google is doing that? Because they want you to spend more time on SCRPs, and they help you to understand more visually rather than just clicking on the links. So Google ultimately wanted to make your recipe more interesting, and that's why schemas plays very major role in that. So let's dive into schemas. So Like every other, I'm want to share some examples. So these are the example. I assume you already seen, many of you seen these examples. Many of you knowing that as well. A few of might be new to SEO and they might not visualize this. So these are the star rating. The first image you are seeing. The second one you are seeing is product markup. So you see the price over there. So whenever e-commerce sites implement schema, so we call it product schemas, and this look like this on SERP page. The third example talks about video markup. So when you're searching anything on YouTube, not YouTube, but on SCRP page and YouTube video or some web page of your site, they're showing that. So they shows like this video markup. This is example of local schemas. So on your right, you can see Google extract text from our About Us page, and they're showing there. They're also showing our social profile links. So that is just due to local schema. This is all about events. So we call as a event schema. So if your site listing lot many events, so here I'm citing example of allevents.in. So I'm showing what events happening in Mumbai, and you can see events with date wise as well. So this is how uh, you get more visual event detail on schema place. Plus, it will improve your CTRs, click through rate. This is a recipe. I assume samosa is might be one of your favorite dishes. If yes, you can comment there. And this is how many calorie you are going to consume there mentioned on that, or how many time it will take to get it prepared. And of course rating people are giving for that stuff. So that is a recipe schema. So here by now you might be understood how schema look like on SCRP page. But if you want to say a kind of definition, so that is a structured data, and search engine is able to understand that very easily because it is very search engine friendly, and which is supported by Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and other search engines. Schema you might find more on schema.org. So ultimately, they are a code. Ultimately, you need to program it. There are various way to get it done, and Armand is going to explain you all the stuff, all the tricks and tips. So that code you need to implement on certain web pages. So for example, if you want to implement event schema, so that is a different kind of code you need to implement. You want to implement local schema, so you need to implement different code on your web pages. So this is how you need to implement your code on certain pages, and that code will tell to your search engine what exactly information is all about on that certain page. So it is kind of vocabulary between search engine and your website. So they both can discussed, and they can understand, and search engine can understand your website very better. There are roughly 600 types of schemas that you can mark. And if you go to IMDb, there are schemas for movies. If you go to event site, there's schemas for events. There are schemas for book. There are schemas for article and whatnot. So there are unlimited schemas available on your website, and you can use that. And this is the best example of using schemas, schema.org. So this will give you all kind of schemas. So you can see over here the schemas for book, movies, music, recipe, TV series, events, health and medicine, types, organization, person, and whatnot. So there are multiple kind of schemas, and if you want to review anything schema for your kind of niche, so visit the schema.org and you are able to find it. So I guess I'm done with the basics. If you have any question, I love to address that. Or if you want to keep it at end of the session, I'm okay. Nitin, I'm handing over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You are my favorite expert. I mean, everyone takes more time than than assigned to them, and you are right on time. You are awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So Arnold, before we jump to your session, what's your take on everything that they've mentioned? So maybe you can just share, yeah, your points on
Uh,
that.
no, no, well, I agree. I mean, these are the basics. Basically, it's for me, structured data or a schema is not so much about SERP features. They're nice to haves, and I won't be chasing them. What I use it for is to add an extra layer of context. So by displaying that I'm actually a local business, that I offer these and these services, or for instance, that these are the products that are used for X, Y, and Z, that will help Google distinguish when I'm relevant. So if you have things in stock, then they'll send you. They are able to send you the traffic. If you don't have it in stock, it
Right.
doesn't help the user to send somebody there.
Mhm.
So for me, structured data is all about making Google understand the web better, and not only Google, but as JD said, all the other search engines as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I would like to add is that from my tinfoil hat, I think we're also training their machine learning algorithm by giving the truth.
Yeah.
Basically, by marking up things in schema, we're validating what's on the page. So when they do text analysis, they can compare it to the actual schema which is there, which will help them understand which words are being used to basically talk about that specific product or service or business. But apart
Absolutely.
from that, like a very good intro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would totally agree with you and Jaideep. So you rightly mentioned like feeding this data to machines to understand a product, a page better than normal, and that's why it's called structured data, right? So it's in structure so that you can feed it to the machine and they can learn from it, and then based on that,
Yeah,
give some nice
yeah.
results. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And
Uh,
we have already started getting so many amazing questions. So we'll jump to that after your session. So guys, thank you so much for asking these questions. You're awesome, and I love these questions already. So before we go to the questions, let's start with what Arnaud has for us. So let's yeah, stage is all yours, Arnaud. Go for it.
yeah, I will. There we go. Um, can you all see it?
Perfect. Yes,
Yeah.
looks perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go into presentation mode. Um, so thanks for having me. So let's talk tips. Let's go one further. Let's go one deeper. So firstly said, apart from the schemas, there's different ways to implement it as structured data. So this is the way to put it in your website. So you can use RDFA, which is basically the starting point. I wouldn't recommend using it. There are still some use cases, but I wouldn't use it. Microdata is actually wrapping your elements with the right schema. It's quite cumbersome, but it can help. You can add loads of stuff, but the most used one is JSON LD. So I'm going to focus on that last one more in this presentation. So first tip, during your keyword research, identify the structured data appearing for your keyword targets. So a great way to do it is when you find keywords you want to target, then identify by just searching for that product. Is there product schema coming up? Is there review schema coming up? Is there other things that are have elements that are powered by structured data? This will help you decide which one to use. Decide if you have the level of content required to mark up with structured data. So the reason I'm saying this is that because if you use it for spamming, so if you mark up reviews when the reviews aren't actually present, or when you mark up products and the products aren't actually present. It might be picked up by search engines, but you might also get a structured data penalty for the misuse of structured data. So check on Google. They've got loads of documentation on it. See if your content fits the guidelines. So when you should use what. Deploy, test, and monitor your structured data. So feature snippets are very easy to monitor, say, for instance, in SEMrush. But you can also use Google Search Console for a lot of the feedback. So if there's errors in your schema, they will come up with that. So big question that somebody might wanna ask, and you can basically ask this for anything. So what's the best structured data? This is an interesting one, and here's my 2 words that fit pretty much any question in SEO, which is, it depends. It depends on loads of things. It depends on your product. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. It depends on whether there is a schema for it. It basically depends. E-commerce has different use cases from, say, a travel website, has different use cases from an affiliate website, from a reviews website, like all of these kind of things. So to give you an example, if you run a recipe blog, and JDip already showed you the snippet. So what are the ones you can start using? Just broaden your mind. So first one you could use is the recipe schema. So it says something about calories, about the way the way you prepare it, the time it takes to prepare, and all kinds of things. But you can also use the FAQ schema, where some recipes might actually have some questions attached to it, like is it gluten-free, is it vegetarian, all these kind of things. So you can mark up your questions and answers on that page and wrap them in a FAQ schema, and that it might give you more space, real estate in the SERP, which is always a good thing. You can use the review schema in combination with the recipe if you have reviews. You can also use an article schema when you're going to talk about a certain ingredient, mangoes, or I don't know, some kind of flour or whatever. You can use an article schema. And we used to have author markup with Google Plus profiles. I still think it's quite important to include your author schema if you want to build it up, that basically give that signal to a search engine that you know a lot about, say, Indian food or Italian food or whatever. So those are examples for a recipe blog. So I reckon there's a lot of people watching now that run small or big affiliate sites or are involved with affiliate sites. So what can you do as an affiliate site? So you can basically use it for how-to markup. So with how-to, it's more like guides. So it could be a guide to keyword research, or it could be a guide to buying a car, or it could be a guide to buy a second-hand car, whatever. There are all kinds of things. So you can use the how-to markup. You can use the FAQ markup if there is questions, as I just explained. Then you can use a product markup explaining what kind of product you're reviewing maybe, or things like that. And you can use expert review markup. If you are the expert on sunglasses and you do a sunglasses review of the new big brands, and you're known for that, you can basically create that in an expert review markup. But be careful not abusing this, because it's very hard to get in here and get it, the expert review markup, or you can implement it, but whether Google will validate and say, yeah, I'm going to use it, that's a different thing. So the other thing is, how do you actually implement it? Now, there is a great article on the SEMrush blog, and I'll share the link later, where it's basically it's made extremely simple on how to use FAQ schema to any page using Google Tag Manager, but you can use it for all kinds of schemas. So check it out. There are some issues with the structured data testing tool not interpreting. So I haven't talked about the structured data testing tool, but you can just Google it, and I've included links later in the presentation. It is a way to validate what you've actually created in JSON-LD, whether it actually works. The issue is that the structured data testing tool is not, it has some problems with rendering through GTM. So Simon Ahava came up with the fix for that. And the actual fix, so you put your schema into this link for SEO George, and he basically then gives you the right snippet you can parse into the structured data testing tool, and that will tell you, that will validate your structured data. So building the schema, what do you do? Because I've seen some questions coming in. So you pick the schema that's useful. So if you, for instance, want to mark up a school, you go to schema.org and you type in school on the right-hand side in the search box, and then it will come up with all the schemas that are deemed relevant to a school, which is education and educational institution and loads of other ones. Build the schema. So with building the schema, it takes a while to understand what you need to do, especially the less popular schemas like educational institution, but FAQ schema, any syntax errors in. Because if there are syntax errors in, Google is not good in parsing it. So tips and tools for building the schemas. The structured data testing tool, as I promised, the links are here. The supported schemas. So these are all the schemas that Google has said, we support these. I know for a fact that Google understand and probably uses a lot of the other schemas, but these are the ones where they've literally said, with all the prerequisites, these are the ones we use in our feature snippets, in our SERP features, in all kinds of stuff. So there, and then I'm listing 2 schema generators which are free to use. One is on Technical SEO, and the other one is by Joe Hell on hellanalysis.com. So you can use those, and they've got plenty of interesting schemas embedded where you can just fill in a few fields, and then the JSON-LD will be generated for you. So some more tips. Look at competitors for inspiration. So search for different things. Look at the SERP features and look into their source code and search for schema.org. When you do this, if they're using Tag Manager to implement it, you won't find it in the source code. So you have to look at the rendered source to find it. But it's always fun to do. I do it a lot. As I just said, use a crawler that renders using Chromium to test competitors on what they are using, because this will give you whether it's on the page or whether it's injected through GTM and JavaScript, you will be able to see it. Keep an eye out for the errors in Google Search Console. So Google Search Console will say, these are the ones we found, these have errors on it, and they will also say what kind of error. And when you're building things like FAQ schemas or how-tos, use customer language. Don't think from yourself, think from how would the user search for this, because that will help you gain those search features way easier. And last but not least, do the searches yourself. Be curious about how Google is progressing. That was it. Hope it was helpful.
It was brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that. I mean, there were a lot of interesting tips, especially like the way you can basically scale it with GTM without deployment dependency. That was
Yeah.
fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then you also covered Simo's tips on how to fix it. So that was definitely helpful for me.
Yeah.
I think like a few years back. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that as well. Cool.
Okay, cool.
So now so we have so many questions and I'm loving these questions already. So before going there, I would ask Jaydeep if he wants to add something here on everything that I've not shared.
So that was really interesting. So when I was discussing with my fellow SEO, so we were are coming to a conclusion right now. FAQ schemas are very hot favorite in among SEO community, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to implement it,
Yeah.
especially Q&A and FAQ schemas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of my friends sharing their observation that they implemented, and they see boosting in the ranking as well. So
Mhm.
we just implemented, but we haven't seen any changes in SERP for our clients. But few of my friends
Mhm.
they shared, so they seen positive impact on the SERP as well. So that was really
Awesome.
brilliant.
Good. That sounds great. All right. So now I think because Arnold was speaking for 15 minutes continuously, so I would give him a bit like a short break, and I can probably ask a couple of questions to our expert Jaideep. So let's start with a very interesting question, which is very abstract as well. So the question is how to use schema markup for a school website. So this question is very abstract because this person is talking about school website, not like particular pages or like content that they are basically thinking about highlighting. So what's your take on this like super generic question? How would you think about a school website, and then what kind of schema markups you can recommend, assuming it's a school website and you basically think about like ideal structure of the website? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to schema.org, there is special markup there for schools. I mean, if I say broader education organization, and the
Yeah.
interesting part, there is special markup for driving schools as well.
Yeah.
So, so there hardly a few people might be using driving school markup, but there are broader education organization markup is mentioned over schema.org. So if you go to
Right.
schema.org/education organization, so you'll find that markup. And if you implement that right, you can use for your school.
Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, schema.org is a place. I think there you can just go and search for anything and you'll find something
That's right.
relevant for your website. And if you don't find it, you can think about going like one level up and then see what the current category is. And there you can find some interesting things that you can implement. So, the idea I think here should be like, what is the data that we can highlight to add more value for users? So, if you think about users, you can also, make Google or other search engine bots happy and then highlight the right data. So I think,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
that's
Google
something that you
keeps
can,
yeah, Google keeps saying that keep your user happy, they will keep me happy.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Then next question is really interesting. And I got a mention here. So this question is about like this person is asking which one is better, having a separate FAQ page marked up with schema or having a small FAQ section on your money pages, the way Nathan has done it on Omeo. So, well, I think there is no good or bad way here. So it's like your personal choice. So for us, I'll tell you the motivation. So we wanted to add more relevant content on our landing pages. And that's why we chose to have FAQ section on our landing pages so that we can cover some frequently asked questions that, for example, we are in travel. And if we have a landing page from, let's say, trains from Paris to London, then if we also have a FAQ section which says how far is Paris from London, or what is the cheapest flight, or what's the cheapest train from Paris to London, or what's the fastest train from Paris to London. So these are very like common questions when we talk about travel. So we are basically covering these questions so that we get more content on our landing pages, and this content is relevant. And then we implemented FAQ schema on top of that, so that so there are two things. One, increasing traffic. So Jaideep already spoke about that. That some of his friends actually saw like increase in traffic. But for me, more important is if you're getting 100 impressions, and today with a CTR of 5%, you're getting 5 clicks. If I can increase this CTR to 10%, then I'm getting 10 sessions with those 100 impressions. So which is already a win for me, which is increase in traffic without any fluctuations in rankings. That's one thing. And another thing, which well, I'm really happy about it, and it works, and it is something which is obvious, but it sounds like a bit negative thing. So when you are ranking with FAQs, so you get more space in SERP, so your competitors are pushed down. So when they're pushed down, so you get like more you have like more probability of getting those clicks, right? So that's another thing that I wanted to test, and it worked great for us. So I can totally recommend thinking about implementing it. And I think it doesn't really matter whether you are implementing on a separate page for it, or implementing it on your money pages or like core product pages. So that's totally on you. Yeah. So that's my take on this. Arnold, do you want to add something here? You were smiling continuously.
Yeah,
Want to
yeah, yeah.
hear
No,
your thoughts?
I fully agree with you, and I like the fact that you think in SERP real estate, which
Yeah.
is basically if you're on top and you can drop them with quite a few pixels, then you're more prone to get the click. Um, what I what you were basically saying, you can have one page or you can have multiple pages. But if you think about it from a user's perspective, it makes more sense if you have, say, a destination from and where to only focus those FAQs on those relevant questions. So, because if you would just create one big page with a lot of questions on it, where is the relevancy to the rest of the page? So I would recommend having those FAQ or the FAQ schemas to be catered to the intent of the page. I mean, that kind of makes sense. So that's what my recommendation would be. And I think that the next level of FAQ schema will basically be that Google will take them as trusted answers. So I think having those signals in that people actually start interacting with the snippet and then following up or visiting that page will be a big signal. And at some point, I think Google will remove those FAQ schemas again. But for now, it is definitely a win.
Great. Cool. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for adding that. All right. So let's move to the next interesting question, which is what are the best schemas for SaaS products, software as a service products? So what do you think about it, Adeep?
So for SaaS, there is a separate schema for products. So you can use for your SaaS products, and on top of that, if you are having reviews on Google Local or Trustpilot kind of site, you can use a review schema as well. So
Mhm.
for SaaS company, I'll suggest them to use both the schemas, especially product schema for your product pages and reviews across the site. So that will
Mhm.
help you to improve your CTR and plus trust.
Yes, absolutely. I would totally agree on that. Anna, do you want to add anything here?
Well, interestingly, define SaaS. So a lot of companies call themselves software as a service. So if you're a matching marketplace like dating,
Yeah.
could you then mark that up as well? So in one of the projects I've been involved in, I started marking up my service as an actual
Yeah.
service because it was local and locally based, but it was actually just a marketplace. We weren't the service provider. And what that did was we started ranking for generic keywords on localized basis. So if Google is certain that a certain person is in a certain city, say for instance Amsterdam, then what Google would do is it would show my page for a generic search term instead of generic plus Amsterdam. So that led me to believe that adding service area schemas, and then another tip towards that. So you have to describe the service, and you can use also things like same as, which is the field in schema where you can reference, say, a Wikipedia page describing your service. But then the next thing is, if you're going to mark it up with local, with your local reach, use latitude and longitude and a radius, because Google's algorithms don't work with names. So if you say Amsterdam is my region, or Delhi is my region, Delhi is my area served, then Google will try to translate that into latitude and longitude, because their whole search is based on that. So if you can communicate in lat long and radius, that will make it easier to digest by Google bots.
Yeah. So thank you so much for answering that. And I think you all also covered like another question we had, which was about, can we use latitude and longitude using schema? So I think you've already covered that.
Yes,
So thank you
yes,
so
and
much.
you should.
Yeah. So your one answer covered two questions. Well, we have a lot of generic questions here, like how it works in e-commerce and like ratings, reviews. But I think we already covered like all these questions when speaking about stuff. So that's pretty good actually. All right. So now let's talk about like all these schema markups in general. So can you talk about, because I'm a big fan of learning from examples. So can you share like some examples where you implemented something on a particular website, let's say e-commerce or any website of your choice, and then it gave you magical results, and what were those results? I mean, if you can just give a brief of that so that our viewers can understand from it and then be more motivated to test them today itself.
Yeah, I think the one I just gave, where we described the service. In this case, it was a babysitting service. So we started ranking for find a babysitter without geo coordinates, and without a geo modifier, as I call them, so a place name. And we started ranking for with those pages. We added the markup on, saying these are all the babysitters available in this area with a range of 5 miles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that to me was a really big example. I think other ones that I've seen good results in is the FAQ schema and contact point schema.
You stole my answer. That is what I wanted to add here.
Sorry about that, but no, those ones work really well. Another one which really, from a different perspective, worked really well is to say you have a company with multiple entry points in terms of contact. So you've got one customer service, you've got one sales phone number, you've got one after sales phone number, one marketing inquiries, press, all kinds of stuff. So the cool thing is that on a certain page like that, Google has huge problems figuring out when to show what phone number.
Yeah.
So you can use the contact page markup and then start adding and describing what the telephone number can be used for. So you could say technical customer service, customer complaints, all kinds of stuff. With that, Google will probably, or that's what I've seen, will pick the right phone number to show. because especially in big corporations, they pick the wrong phone numbers, and then transferring calls is just a huge burden. And it's not the right user experience. It costs a lot of money, all kinds of stuff. So think about different use cases as well. It's not just about search features.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. What's your take on
So
this, Jadip? What's
yeah,
your
so
favorite, like one favorite?
yeah. So the base case study, if as you asked me to share case study, we work with lot many publishing sites. So they have very large
Mhm.
pool of content. They have thousand pages. So few time back we implemented TOC schemas, table of content. So they pick up H2, H3 and mention like
Okay.
that. So we seen there are lot many organic CTR improvement plus certain keywords which are part of H2 or H3. This that certain blogs are ranking for that keyword even.
Yeah.
So that eventually give lot many organic traffic. And if you see SCRP page, there are options available on SCRP pages. I mean, H2, H3 kind of. So user can click on certain option and they reach to the directly that part of the blog. So that is my case study, and that help us to improve organic traffic like anything.
Cool. And did it only increase the traffic because now you were sharing more information for users? So maybe you were not getting any clicks as well in some cases because users got the answer there itself. So they didn't even have to click on it, right?
No, so in case of zero position, they got an answer, but in the rest of the zero position, 1 to 10,
Yeah.
their answer is not too much primarily visible on page.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I mean, there are a lot of people asking about e-commerce schemas. I think everyone here is in e-commerce and they're like completely in this topic. So I can probably share an example about e-commerce schema because Arnold already stole the answer that I wanted to share. So yeah, so my example is about e-commerce. So when I was working for Flipkart, so we were seeing like this trend where a lot of people were searching for price of things. So iPhone 5 price, iPhone 6 price, and then maybe AirPods price and so on. So people were searching for it, and then we were getting this traffic, and then there was like a very high bounce rate as well because people were interested in just seeing the price, and then they were probably comparing with other products, Amazon, Snapdeal, and all these products. And then they were taking a call whether they want to continue with Flipkart or they want to basically move to another product. So we found this problem, and then we basically marked our pricing data there. So now price was available on the SERP itself along with the listing. So by doing this, we got less traffic, but this traffic was high quality because people who were interested in knowing only the
Yeah.
price, they could see the price there itself, and then they were not clicking and then bouncing back. So we saw like a tiny dip in our traffic, but then a bounce rate got much better. So I think the overall quality of traffic improved. So that was, I think, one good learning for us. And here, it's not only about generating more traffic, but it's also about generating high quality traffic. So I think that is something, you know, that worked for us. And I'm really happy and proud about that experiment. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Anat, Jaideep? Any other example or any other tip for e-commerce in particular?
Ah, so for e-commerce, you can do products. I think in-depth reviews, so expert reviews could work. Video markup for video, and what else? But also like customer service and the FAQ page. So I think those are the biggest ones you can do, or the most obvious ones. Of course, there's other ones as well, but instead of just that's the other thing. These are things that I think people should be doing if they fixed all the rest of the basics. Uh, but that's always a little bit of a thing with me. But no, so I think those are the ones you should be using.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Jaideep,
So
your turn.
adding over here, I'll suggest to implement all the schema step by step. So then you can have a proper insight. X thing worked, Y thing didn't work, or Y thing worked not too much, kind of stuff. If you implement all that one go, and you keep waiting, your CTR will improve, or you can't come to a conclusion what exactly worked the most. So
Mm.
I'll suggest to implement one by one, so that will help you to understand. And it is all about data to decision.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
always should have right data to take a right decision. So that's
Yep.
my take.
Agreed.
Cool. Thank you so much. Well, that was amazing. So we got so many questions. I think we still have a lot of questions which are not answered. But then I would recommend our lovely viewers to ask these questions directly to either Anot or Jaideep or me on Twitter or LinkedIn. So we will
Yeah.
speak about our preferred communication channel. So let's go there. And but before that, I would love to hear like one key takeaway from both of you. So maybe Anot, you can start. What's your key takeaway from the day?
So my key takeaway is that there is a lot of opportunity in Schema, but you have to think about what you really want to achieve. So that's my big takeaway. The other one is, and I would recommend. So I've had a lot of chats with Jono Alderson, who's now at Yoast. You guys might know him. Um, and he's working on automating a lot of the schema into the SEO plugin, the Yoast SEO plugin. And I was quite impressed with all the work that they put in and all the possibilities. So so if you run a blog like that, it might actually be a good way to start getting involved with schema, because they've got a lot of it out of the box. That will save you a lot of headaches. Um, but apart from that, it's just start testing it yourself. Start building it in. I think if you read the article on SEMrush on how to get FAQ schema using GTM, Google Tag Manager, then it would be fairly easy for other people to start just implementing it using Tag Manager, and then go take it from there. So that's the
Thank you
biggest
so much.
takeaway for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And guys, Jono Edison, he's an amazing guy. He's always working on like super interesting stuff. So do follow him if you're not following already. He's working on
Agreed.
kick-ass stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agree.
Agreed.
All right. Yeah, Jaydev, your turn. What's your key takeaway?
So my key takeaway, especially advice to all Indian SEOs, don't run only for traffic or CTRs kind of stuff. Have your goals very clear. The example rightly shared by Nitin. So they don't want to have traffic which is not converting for them. So they want to restrict that traffic, and they Nitin absolutely find that things, and they solved it. So try to understand high traffic is not always good thing, and you need to understand what your organization goal, or if you're working with clients, what are client goals. So especially I observe in India, so they want to do everything. So don't do everything, do step by step, and have special goals. I mean, so if your clients is focusing more on leads, so try to understand which schema will help you to improve your leads
Yeah.
mechanism. If you are in e-commerce, which schema will help you to get more sales. And other than schema, try to do all on page and basic stuff very clearly. So it's not like that your basics are not right and you implement schema and magic will happen. So you need to do all basic stuff very perfectly and then implement the advanced stuff. So schema is we consider as a little advanced thing. So if you're basic, so try to focus on basic first and then come to schemas and other stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would totally agree on that. So like very logical thinking, think about what you want to achieve and then go for it. And then I think another thing, yeah, so that's what I want to add as my key takeaway here, which is something that we didn't discuss at all, but I would really want to add it here. So tracking the right metric. Not everything is basically for sessions and generating like more revenue or conversions. Think about what exactly is that you can move from doing what you're doing. So if you're 100% confident that you're implementing this and this will move this particular KPI, then it makes sense. Don't go for like sessions, rankings straight away. These are the end metrics. Of course, I mean, this is what you're playing this game for. But think about the metrics that you can really influence doing what you're doing. So that would be my key takeaway here. And with that, I think we are in the very final round of the session. But before that, we got some questions, and then there was like a very polite request, which is about, could you show us live demo, like how to implement schema on a website? Well, I would have loved doing this, but this would take, I think, 5 to 10 minutes. So I don't think we have that much time, and I'm not sure if everyone would be interested doing that. So you can just ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and then I can show you the demo, like how to implement this. I'll be more than happy to do that. And then there was another question, another request about uh, JSON LD. So I can basically show you, how to do that as well. That's like pretty easy. Cool. So with that, let's move to the funnel round, which is saying goodbye in SEMrush style, where you will basically talk about your preferred communication channel and one final advice for the people here on Corona or Schema, your call. And you can also share your preferred communication channel where they can reach out to you with their questions if their questions are not answered here. So go for it. Jaideep, you can start this time.
Yeah, so I'll prefer a question over Twitter or LinkedIn, but still Twitter, it's publicly visible, so other can take advantage of our conversation. So I'll prefer over Twitter. And Corona, we are already doing Namaste, so keep doing this.
Yes, absolutely. Anant.
So for me, it's definitely Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, so just ping me questions, and I'll able to just reply with the answer probably. And if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. But apart from that, I think biggest advice is read up, and maybe it is to actually serve to 2 web pages. I'll share my presentation on my SlideShare channel, so we might be able to send it around or add it to the show notes or whatever. But it is to actually look at all the feature snippets that are supported by structured markup, which is in the search gallery. So with all the features on Google Webmasters. So read up on that. And the other one is start searching schema.org for anything you fancy, and you'll see that there's tons, just to spark your imagination. That's my final tip. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Well, and then it's me, Nitin Manchanda. You can catch me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. If I don't know, I'll be able to redirect to one of these 2 gentlemen here, or maybe someone else who can answer your questions better. But I would love to hear more questions and feedback from you. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and stay safe, take care of yourself, and make the most of this Corona situation by learning online, and do whatever you wanted to do always, but never got time. So enjoy your day, and thank you so much once again for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.